Imagine stepping up to the tee box, right? You just rip a 320-yard drive straight down the center of the fairway. You hear the crowd roar, you bend down to grab your tee, and you feel totally invincible.
Oh, yeah. Best feeling in golf.
Right. But meanwhile, our predictive models are instantly flashing red because, well, you've mathematically ruined your chances of making birdie.
Yep. At Augusta National, power without placement is, it's basically a trap.
Exactly. So welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're unrolling the statistical blueprints to the 2026 Masters Tournament, and we're bypassing all these, the azaleas, the history, the pimento cheese sandwiches.
Oh, those are great.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
But today, we're looking at a massive stack of data-driven betting and fantasy golf models. We've got historical trends from 2017 to 2025, hole-by-hole breakdowns, and predictive player archetypes. It's like prepping for a heist movie.
I love that.
We've got the blueprints to the most famous vault in golf. Now we just need to analyze the security systems and figure out exactly which, specialists we need in our crew for you to pull off a win.
Right, because the goal here is simple, but incredibly difficult to actually execute. We want to cut right through the massive hype of this tournament to reveal the cold, hard math behind what makes a master champion.
Yeah.
Augusta is a place steeped in mythology, but, mythology doesn't pay out your betting card. Data does.
Data pays. So if you're trying to build a winning fantasy lineup or a smarter betting card this week, you need to know who those specialists are. Let's start with the course itself. The Augusta puzzle. We know it plays long. It stretches over 7,500 yards, par 72.
Right.
But the data we're looking at proves that length is actually, well, it's a brilliant decoy.
It's the ultimate optical illusion. The visual intimidation off the tee is staggering, but the primary defense of this property isn't its length. It's really the requirement for absolute surgical precision on your second shot.
So it's a true second shot golf course.
The quintessential second shot course.
Yeah.
If you look at the historical data, it consistently ranks as one of the hardest courses on the entire tour for proximity to the hole from that 125 to 200-yard range.
Right. See, I always wonder about that. Why is that specific yardage, like 150 yards, so difficult here? These guys hit 150-yard 8-iron to 3 feet in their sleep.
Yeah, normally they do.
So what makes Augusta's 150 yards so uniquely punishing?
Well, it comes down to the topography. Like on a standard tour course, a player is hitting that 8-iron from a perfectly flat lie, right?
Right.
At Augusta, there is almost no flat ground. You're constantly dealing with uneven lies. The ball is above your feet, below your feet.
On a crazy downhill slope.
Exactly. So hitting a 170-yard shot when you're standing on a 10-degree downhill grade, it requires an entirely different calculation of trajectory and spin.
And then you add in the swirling winds at Amen Corner.
Yeah, suddenly that stock 8-iron becomes a total mathematical nightmare.
Okay, so the drive is just a pawn move. It's just about setting up a flattish lie and a good angle for the approach shot, which is the queen on the chessboard.
That's a great way to put it.
But I've got to push back a little. We constantly hear the narrative that modern golf has been completely overpowered by guys who just, swing out of their shoes.
Bombers.
Right, the bombers. If distance isn't the main defense, why shouldn't a player who can just smash the ball 350 yards straight over the trees completely dominate the setup?
Well, the source data is pretty clear on this. Drafting a pure bomber for Augusta is like bringing a dragster to a Formula One race.
Okay, I like that.
Right. Sure, you have the absolute highest top speed, but the moment you hit a hairpin turn, or in this case, a sweeping downhill lie with a tuck pin,
Right.
you're crashing into the wall.
So brute force just doesn't work.
Not if it leaves you with the wrong angle into these severely undulating greens. Placement completely outweighs power.
Give me a specific example of how that geometry actually punishes the dragster.
Okay, take holes 2, 7, and 18. The analytics heavily red flag these specific holes. Let's say our bomber hits at 340 yards on 18, but he misses the fairway to the right.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. They are now what we call short-sighted.
And just for anyone who doesn't play every weekend, short-sighted means you've missed the green on the side where the hole is cut closest to the edge. So you have virtually no green to work with between your ball and the hole.
Right. And in Augusta, it's not just a lack of green, it's a lack of green on a surface that is tilted and running as fast as glass.
Oh, wow.
So our bomber's in the pine straw, short-sighted, with a downhill chip to a fast green. He is mathematically almost guaranteed to make bogey or worse.
Well, the guy who just laid up is fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A player who hits a strategic 290-yard drive into the correct side of the fairway gives himself a clean uphill approach into the slope of the green. He can actually stop the ball near the pin. You just cannot overpower geometry.
That makes perfect sense. The course beats you into trying to overpower it, and then it just traps you.
Yep.
Okay, let's shift gears to the actual historical stats, the blueprint of a winner. Looking at the champions from the April editions between 2017 and 2025, and I know we're excluding that weird November pandemic Masters in 2020.
Yeah, the sauce conditions totally skewed those numbers.
Yeah. Right. So excluding that, what does the statistical footprint of a winner actually look like?
A very clear baseline emerges from the data. The average winning score hovers right around 11 under par.
Okay.
Their average driving distance is solid, about 300 yards. So, you can't be a short hitter, but you don't need to lead the tour in distance. Driving accuracy sits at 72.9%.
It seems pretty standard.
It is. But here's the critical metric. Over 4 days, they keep their double bogeys to less than 1.
Wait, I have to throw a wrench into that baseline right away because the 2025 winner, Rory McIlroy, is in this data set.
Yes.
And he won at 11 under par, hitting that baseline score perfectly. But he had 4 double bogeys during the tournament. 4.
Oh, yeah.
The historical average is less than 1. He completely broke the rule of extreme bogey avoidance. So does his win last year suggest the model is broken? Like, can modern players just out-birdie their mistakes?
It's a great question, but no. McIlroy's 2025 performance is a fascinating outlier, but it absolutely does not break the model. Honestly, it reinforces how difficult it is to win that way.
How so?
Because to offset those 4 double bogeys,
Yeah.
he had to produce an absurd level of firepower. He had 3 eagles and 18 birdies.
Wow. Yeah, that's insane.
Right. Relying on that kind of extreme volatility is incredibly dangerous. If you are a fantasy manager building a lineup, McIlroy is the exception, not the rule. The broader analytics scream that plotting your way around and avoiding big numbers is the far safer, more replicable path.
Okay, so we're looking for steady assassins, not volatile gunslingers. Let's drill into the approach metrics because this is where the data gets super specific. The historical baseline demands hitting 70.1% of greens in regulation.
Yes.
Now, hitting 7 out of 10 greens sounds, somewhat standard for the absolute best professional golfers in the world. Why is that specific number such a separator at Augusta?
Well, because hitting an Augusta green is really only half the battle. The real secret of that 70% stat is what it demands when they inevitably miss those other 3 out of 10 greens.
Oh, right.
The models highlight 2 ultimate hidden survival skills here, which are scrambling and lag putting.
Let's focus on scrambling first. The source points heavily to scrambling as a hidden separator. Is that strictly because of those infamous false fronts?
That is a massive part of it. The architecture here uses severe false fronts and shaved runoff areas. So if an approach shot lands 3 feet short of the putting surface, it doesn't just settle in the rough.
It rolls away.
It catches that shaved slope and rolls 30 or 40 yards back down a hill into a collection area. So the winner isn't just the guy who hits the most greens, it's the guy who knows exactly which hill to miss on.
And has the chipping touch to get up and down from those tight lies.
Exactly.
It's like the ultimate test of emotional regulation. You hit what looks like a decent shot, the course just rejects it, sends it 40 yards away, and you can't panic, you just have to scramble.
Right.
And what about the lag putting?
So the greens average over 6,400 square feet, and they're wildly undulating.
Yeah.
If you hit the green in regulation, but you end up on the wrong tier, like 50 feet away from the pin, you are in 3-putt territory immediately.
Which kills the scorecard.
Exactly. So lag putting, the ability to control the pace of a long putt so it stops right next to the hole, is mandatory. The baseline for winners is averaging less than 1.96 putts per green in regulation. You have to eliminate the 3-putt.
All right, we have the blueprint. We need a 300-yard strategic driver, someone hitting 70% of greens with elite scrambling and lag putting. We are essentially hunting for the perfect Augusta specialist.
We are.
When we feed the 2026 field into this archetype, who does the math actually spit out?
Well, the model demands a complete tee to green operator. The very top of the list features the names you'd expect. Scotty Scheffler, obviously, because his all-around consistency and dominance at this specific course are just unmatched.
The natural.
And Xander Schauffele is flagged as having a wonderfully balanced profile across all the key metrics. And Rory McIlroy, despite his volatility last year, still grades out with elite par 4 scoring.
Nice. Anyone else stand out?
The top 10 fits also include Siwoo Kim for his lead ball striking and Hideki Matsuyama.
Oh, Matsuyama's short game is incredible.
Yep. He actually holds the #1 scrambling rank in the entire model.
Let's talk about the term tee to green operator for a second. The data heavily weights something called strokes gained approach. We hear this stat thrown around constantly on broadcasts, but what does it actually measure in the context of Augusta?
So strokes gained approach isn't just a basic percentage of how many greens you hit. It's this complex mathematical calculation of exactly how many fractions of a stroke a player saved compared to the rest of the field from a very specific distance and a very specific lie.
Oh, okay.
So it tells us who is actually aiming for the safest, smartest quadrants of these treacherous greens rather than just, firing at the pin and hoping for the best.
Which brings up an interesting strategic dilemma for our listeners. If I'm building a betting card, is it better to bet on a perfectly balanced player with no glaring weaknesses, like Schofel, or a player with one absolutely dominant superpower,
Like who?
like Colin Morikawa? He's leading the field in strokes gained approach right now. His iron play is historic. Do you take the balanced guy or the guy wielding the superpower?
It's the classic risk management tension. The analytics argue that while elite approach play is absolutely mandatory, it's undeniably the single most predictive metric poor play in the other categories will eventually eliminate you.
Right.
You could be the greatest iron player alive, but if your scrambling is weak, Augusta will slowly bleed your scorecard dry over 72 holes.
Because eventually everyone misses a green here.
Exactly that. Every player will miss greens. When Morikawa misses, if his short game isn't sharp, he drops a shot. So the balanced tee to green profile, like Schofel, is the safer investment because it limits disaster holes.
Makes sense.
You need the elite approach play to contend, but you cannot carry a glaring weakness in scrambling or lag putting. In fact, the data explicitly warns to deprioritize pure bombers with no control and just completely fade any player with a greens in regulation percentage under 60%.
Because if you're under 60%, you're spending your entire week stressed out in those collection areas.
Exactly.
Okay, let's translate all this theory into actionable picks. We're looking at the specific targets the models recommend backing with your money this week.
Right.
There are two major standouts in the source, both currently sitting at 16-to-1 odds. The first one is Ludwig Åberg.
Åberg is fascinating.
Yeah.
His modern power profile, combined with an incredibly repeatable swing suits Augusta beautifully. He finished second on his debut here in 2024, which is historically very rare.
Super rare.
And then he followed it up with a 7th place finish in 2025.
His recent form coming in is also red hot. He's got a tie for 20th at Genesis, tie for 3rd at Arnold Palmer, tie for 5th at the Players, and a tie for 5th at Valero.
Great momentum.
But I have to point something out. I found a massive contradiction in the data regarding Åberg. The overview stats for this week's field have him sitting just outside the top 30 in general stats analysis. If we're standing here preaching a strict data-first approach, aren't his general stats flashing giant red warning lights? Like, why is he a top pick if he's barely top 30 in the math?
Because that is exactly where amateur bettors make their mistake. They look at the surface level general stats.
Okay.
General stats average out a player's performance across all types of courses, flat courses, coastal courses, dome-like conditions. They completely undersell how well a player's performing for the specific test right in front of them.
So the model strips that away.
Right. When the model strips away the noise and isolates the exact metrics Augusta demands, Åberg's profile completely flips.
So he's basically getting dragged down by grades in classes that don't matter for this specific degree.
Precisely. When you look at what actually matters this week, he ranks 5th on tour for proximity to hole from that crucial 125 to 200-yard range we talked about earlier.
Oh, wow. So in the exact window where Augusta defends itself most fiercely, he's a top 5 player on Earth.
He is. He also ranks 10th for overall scoring average, and his towering ball flight allows him to stop the ball on firm greens way better than most.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, so while his general stats might look mediocre because he struggles on, say, quirky short courses that demand different skills, his specific course-required stats for Augusta prove he's a massive threat.
That is a brilliant catch by the analytics. You have to look at the prerequisite metrics, not the overall GPO. Who is the second target at 16-to-1?
Xander Schofel.
The king of balance himself.
The physical manifestation of the Augusta specialist archetype. Schofel has 4 top 10 finishes in his last 5 starts at the Masters. His comfort level navigating the hills and the pressure of this course is just undeniable.
And he's playing well right now, too.
Stellar form, coming off a 3rd-place finish at the Players' Championship and a tie for 4th at Valspar.
And unlike Åberg, Schofel's general stats don't need any deciphering at all. The models have him sitting comfortably inside the top 10 across event form, current form, and stats analysis.
He ticks literally every single box on the blueprint.
He doesn't rely on just one elite skill. He blends elite consistency with proven course pedigree.
Which goes back to our earlier point about risk management. When Sunday afternoon rolls around, the pressure at Augusta amplifies every minor flaw in a player's game. If you have a weak short game, the pressure will expose it.
Oh yeah, you'll feel it.
If you struggle with lag putting, you'll three-putt the 16th hole. Schauffele is the safest bet because he just doesn't have those exposed nerves in his game.
So as you guys finalize your fantasy rosters and lock in your betting slips for the week, let's synthesize the ultimate takeaway from all this data.
The ultimate lesson is that the Masters isn't a highlight reel contest. It's a contest of attrition. It's really about who makes the fewest compounding mistakes.
Right.
Success at Augusta requires prioritizing precision and correct angles over raw distance off the tee. It requires elite iron play, specifically measured by strokes gained approach. And most importantly, an absolute mastery of three-putt avoidance and scrambling from those shaved collection areas.
So target the disciplined, balanced players hitting around 70% of their greens who excel at bogey avoidance.
That's the formula.
It really is the ultimate test of discipline. You have to respect the geometry of the course, place your drive strategically, and then execute flawlessly with your irons.
Yep.
Before we sign off, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder as you watch the tournament unfold. We've spent this entire time talking about how Augusta's unmoving, consistent nature makes its historical data so incredibly reliable.
The 125 to 200-yard approach data is the holy grail.
Right. But the game of golf is on the brink of a massive shift. What happens when new golf technology or the impending future ball rollback rules take effect?
Oh, that's a huge factor.
Because those rules are designed to curb driving distance, which means players will eventually be forced to tackle those exact same Augusta distances with completely different clubs. Suddenly, a guy who used to hit an 8-iron into the 11th green is hitting a 6-iron. Will the perfect Augusta specialist archetype we just built become obsolete overnight because the physics of the approach shots change? Or will the greatest players in the world just adapt the math, change their launch angles, and find a brand new way to solve the Augusta puzzle?
That is the beautiful tension of this tournament. The course never moves, the fairways never shift, but the game never stops evolving. It's going to be fascinating to watch the data adapt.
It really is. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the 2026 Masters. We hope you take these blueprints, understand the geometry of the course, and use these insights to build a winning strategy this week. Enjoy the tournament.